Welcome back to TLDR's Daily Briefing for Tuesday the 25th of March 2025. In today's episode, Japan dissolves a controversial religious group, Greenland hits back at Donald Trump, and Germany's new parliament meets for the first time. But first, a major national security breach in the US. In a shocking main story today, it's emerged that US officials accidentally leaked details of classified military strikes on the Houthi rebels in Yemen to a journalist last week by mistakenly adding him to a group chat of senior cabinet members. On Monday, Jeffrey Goldberg, editor-in-chief of the magazine The Atlantic, published an account of the messages from last week, including screenshots from the 18-member group chat. On the messaging platform Signal, it was titled Houthi PC Small Group and included US President J.D. Vance, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, among others. According to Goldberg, the messages sent into the chat were about classified military plans for US strikes on the Houthis, including weapons packages, targets, and timing, 2 hours before the bombs then struck. But the other reason the story has caused so much uproar is because it offered an unfiltered insight into the Trump administration's dismissive views of Europe. Commenting on the fact that an attack on the Houthis would help Europe, because Europe has more trade passing through the Suez Canal, which the Houthis have been targeting, Vance said, "I just hate bailing Europe out again." Then, Defense Secretary Hegseth replied, "I fully share your loathing of European freeloading. It's pathetic." So how on earth did this happen, and what repercussions might there be? Well, it was National Security Advisor Waltz who added Goldberg to the chat, and Waltz is now facing growing calls from Republicans to resign over what some have called a sloppy act and others have called unconscionable. However, other Republicans, such as House Speaker Mike Johnson, have defended Waltz, with Johnson saying Waltz was made for that job and that he has Johnson's full confidence. Officially, the US National Security Council has confirmed the veracity of the screenshots, but has so far withheld any blame. A spokesperson said, "At this time, the message thread that was reported appears to be authentic, and we are reviewing how an inadvertent number was added to the chain." US President Donald Trump also dismissed the story when asked about it by reporters, saying that he hadn't heard about it. On the opposition side, Democrats have criticized the Trump administration's incompetence, with Jack Reed, the Rhode Island senator and a top Democrat on the Armed Services Committee, saying, "This story represents one of the most egregious failures of operational security and common sense I have ever seen." You're listening to TLDR's Daily Briefing. If you want more explainers on what's happening in the world, then you should check out TLDR's other channels. Today, we released videos on why Gen Z is anti-military and whether UK Labour will introduce austerity. You can find those videos linked in the description or show notes for this episode, or by searching for TLDR on YouTube or Nebula. A court in Japan has ordered the controversial Unification Church to be stripped of its religious corporation status, nearly 3 years after the religious group came under scrutiny following the assassination of former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in 2022. Abe's suspected assassin had told police that he held a grudge against the church and Abe's ties to it, because the church had apparently bankrupted his family. In response to the growing scrutiny of the church and its deep political ties, Japan's Education and Culture Ministry asked the Tokyo court to strip it of its religious corporation status, which the court has now done, meaning the group loses its tax-exempt status and will see its assets liquidated. The ministry had accused the Unification Church of exploiting and manipulating its followers into handing over huge amounts of money. Politicians in Greenland have condemned plans for high-profile visits by US figures to the island, amid continued threats by US President Donald Trump to take it over. Second Lady Usha Vance is scheduled to make a cultural visit to Greenland on Thursday, as are National Security Advisor Mike Waltz and Energy Secretary Chris Wright. The Greenlandic government said it had not extended any invitations for any visits, neither private nor official, denying claims made by Trump. Greenland's outgoing Prime Minister Muta B. Ejede said the visits were part of a very aggressive bid by the US to seize the island, adding, "We are now at a level where this cannot in any way be characterized as a harmless visit from a politician's wife. The only purpose is to demonstrate power over us." A protest is reportedly planned for Usha Vance's arrival. Meanwhile, Denmark's Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen on Tuesday accused the US of putting unacceptable pressure on both Denmark and Greenland, adding that it is a pressure we will stand up to. Finally, the new German parliament, or Bundestag, has met for the first time today since the February the 23rd federal election. It comes as the election-winning conservative CDU-CSU continues coalition talks with the centre-left Social Democrats, or SPD, with the goal of forming a new government before Easter. At today's sitting, the CDU's Julia Klöckner was elected the parliament's new president, which presides over its sessions. The new Bundestag has been slimmed down to a modest 630 members from a previous 735. The far-right Alternative for Germany, or AfD, also took their seats to become the largest opposition bloc. At the beginning of the session, the AfD demanded that its former leader Alexander Gauland, as the chamber's oldest sitting member, should open the session rather than the longest-serving member, the Left Party's Gregor Gysi. The rules had been changed back in 2017 in order to prevent a far-right lawmaker from opening the session. That's all for today. We'll be back with you tomorrow, so make sure you're subscribed wherever you listen. In the meantime, you can check out the latest episode of our UK politics podcast, Starmageddon, and you can find the link to this in the podcast description. This was a TLDR News production hosted by Georgina Findlay, written by Georgina Findlay and Rory Taylor, and produced by Scarlett Watchorn. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back again tomorrow.